Okay, hello. We've had a lot of great content so far tonight. I want you to give it up again for all of these great speakers who've gone so far. And I promise you that I'm last, so we're almost there. I'm Elyse. I'm a senior engineering manager on the growth team here at Strava. Annie talked about growth earlier. Tonight I'm going to talk about some things that I found you can do to help accelerate your career growth. I've been at Strava a little bit less than a year, but I've spent most of my career building consumer product. I started as a software engineer at a consultancy that built e-learning software for doctors, went to another consultancy that built video experiences for enterprise and sports broadcasting. And then I took that video experience and went to work at Vivo, where we made it so you could watch music videos online. It was there that I transitioned from being a software engineer to an engineering manager. And now I work here at Strava. So throughout my career, I found that if you can focus on learning, being resilient, having vision for where you're going, that you can have pretty effective career growth. And tonight I'm going to talk about some of my own experiences. These may not reflect your own goals or experiences, but I do feel like these three areas can apply to your career regardless of what your goals are or what your current role is. So let's define what these three terms mean. So learning is about being open to opportunities that require you to grow your skills. Resilience about being willing to take risks and then learn from failure. And vision is knowing where you're going, setting goals. So let's start with learning. I think that learning is really about pushing yourself to take that opportunity that you don't really know, like have all the skills to do yet, right? Or try that thing that you've been wanting to try but don't yet know how to do. Early in my career, I decided that I wanted to get better at public speaking. And I had always enjoyed teaching and knowledge sharing, but I was really terrified of public speaking. In fact, when I used to give talks, I would get more nervous the longer I spoke, which if you're giving like a 20-minute talk is really terrible. But I figured, you get better if you practice. So I talked more at work. I spoke at meetups. And eventually I got a talk accepted at a conference to go talk about isomorphic web apps, which was something we were working on at Vivo when I first got there. So I was really nervous. I worked on it till the very last minute. I barely slept that night. But it went pretty well, had a good experience, and I figured, I'll keep practicing. But about 6 months later, something pretty unexpected happened. A publisher had seen my talk, and they wanted to do a book on this topic. So they were like, hey, do you want to write a proposal about this and maybe publish a book? So I was like, sure. So I submitted a proposal. The book got accepted, and I ended up spending pretty much 2 years writing this book, Isomorphic Web Applications. So this ended up being a really fantastic learning opportunity. I had to work on all kinds of skills. I especially had to work on communication skills. I had to get much better at communicating visually, like complex technical topics. This is a really great skill if you're going to be an engineering leader, the ability to visually communicate complex technical topics. And the added benefit is now I'm a published author, so that's pretty cool. But I want to emphasize that I was not an expert when I started this process, right? I took a topic that I worked on at work and ended up here, right? I didn't have all the skills to do this. So it's really important to say yes to those opportunities. Like if you get the opportunity to do something hard at work, do it. Or if there's something new you want to try, go out and do that thing. So the next thing is resilience. The dictionary definition of resilience is finding happiness or success after something bad or difficult has happened. But at work, I think this is really about taking risks and not being afraid of failure and using that failure to reflect and learn. So I also think it's important to remember that a lot of times you see people standing up here talking about their career, their successes, but many people have had a lot of failure along the way, and they've learned from that failure and used it to improve and be more successful at what they're doing today. So I made this little graph. So there's your career growth against time. It's pretty stable if you don't take any risks. But if you take some risks, you might fail, and then you'll learn a whole bunch and have accelerated career growth. This is a very scientific chart. So when I worked at the video consultancy, I got a chance to lead a project. It was like the first project I'd ever led. We worked with clients, so I had to work with the client. I worked with the project manager. There was another engineer on the project. We scoped it, estimated it, felt like we were set up for success. And then the other engineer got pulled off the project. And I tried as hard as I could to make the project successful, but you can't do 2 engineers' work by yourself, right? So we missed the deadline. No fun. We had a meeting at work to talk about what went wrong, how we were going to get it done. And I felt personally responsible for the project, right? Like I had let everybody down. And I ended up crying in that meeting at work. There were like 15 people in this company. I cried in front of like 12 of them. So I went home. I was like disappointed, frustrated, pretty embarrassed. But we finished the project. The client actually ended up being pretty happy with the product. And I thought that, like, oh, I'm never going to get to lead a project again. But my boss saw it totally differently. He was like, that was a good learning experience. And, I earned respect and trust because I had showed how much I cared about making this thing successful. And this led to more opportunities in the future, right? So I think it's really important to remember that you can go and try something, and as long as you learn from it and take some things away and apply that to the thing that you do next, like that will help you be more successful. Last, I want to talk about vision. Vision sounds fancy, but it's really like set a goal, right? Like know where you're going. So when I was interviewing for that job, the video consultancy job, I got asked, what do you want to do in 5 years? And I proceeded to tell my future boss, I would like to have your job in 5 years. So I don't recommend saying it exactly like that, but the benefit of that was that he really helped me. We worked on leadership skills. We worked on, he gave me the opportunity to lead that project, right? And actually, he was so helpful to me in my career. I had to leave that company to go to a bigger company that had more opportunity for me. So I think it's important to be clear, right? Be clear with your manager, be clear with other people who support you, mentors, peers, whoever it is you trust. Set a goal, gain new skills, ask for feedback, implement that feedback. And you don't need to have a 5-year plan. Maybe you do, maybe you don't. Maybe you have a 6-month plan, right? Whatever it is, just be clear about what's next for you. So we've talked about learning, resilience, vision. I originally showed this to you in an equation, and that kind of like implies they're kind of in isolation, but if you've been paying attention, they really support each other. So it's more like this loop. This, when you set a goal, then you know how to focus your learning, right? What skills do I need to gain? And if you take opportunities to learn, you might fail, but that's okay, because as we established, you'll probably learn more from that experience than if you hadn't tried, right? So all these things feed into each other and support each other. So if you remember one thing from tonight, my challenge for you is take one of these things. It's hard to work on everything at once. Take one thing, either set a goal, pick something new to learn, take a risk, but just do one thing. Thank you.